Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 177 of Album of the Day, in which for today's review I'm going to once again review a band from North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina to be exact. That is a band that, you know, if you're into like the underground sort of melodic side of like folk music and acoustic music, this is definitely your band right here. And this is a band that not a lot of people necessarily know about. There are still kind of off the beaten path that still need to kind of still haven't really come through with their big breakthrough yet. But they've been signed to Ramsar Records throughout their career. Since then have definitely been a good, like, best kept secret with rave reviews of some of their albums from local journalists from North Carolina and whatnot. The band that I'm talking about for this review is Bombadil. And you may remember I reviewed these guys a few years back in 2014. I reviewed pretty much their debut full-length album, A Buzz, A Buzz. They did release a self-titled EP before that, but it was really A Buzz, A Buzz, where they kind of sort of started to kind of further perfect what they were doing. So the band sound has evolved in kind of some like goofball, like folky pop music with like a ton of strange instruments, even though the band sound has kind of matured a little bit, even though they've been maturing quite a bit on like later records and stuff. And I'm here to review their most recent record, which came out on March the 3rd, 2017, and the album is called Fences. And as you can see, this is my CD copy of that album right here. This is an album that I've definitely enjoyed quite a bit throughout this year. It was around April of 2017 when I finally got to check out this record. I didn't even know it was out until that month, and until I went to Sidetracks in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is like this really nice, pretty cool record store, small little record store that's in Charlottesville, and I ended up finding out that Bombadil had this new album out. So this was a blind buy for me, but definitely a record that I do highly recommend. Anyway, there's the really nice album cover. There's 11 songs on it, pretty short, just like 35 minutes. And of course on Ramsar Records, which is most well known probably as being the old record label for the Avett Brothers, which definitely one of my favorite bands right there. So they've been signed to Ramsar for a little while before eventually signing with Rick Rubin's American Recordings and recording their last few records with Rick Rubin producing. And then there's like the liner notes. This is produced by John Vanderslice, who, if you're an indie fanatic, John Vanderslice is pretty much like kind of a, like a building block of that whole thing. He's worked with a variety of different indie artists, which I love, artists like Death Cab for Cutie and Spoon, and of course he's done his own solo work too, under his own name, and these guys have worked with his like primary engineer, who is Scott Solter, even though he doesn't appear on this record. Anyway, there's the CD. And then there's like photo of the band and basically the instruments they play, which the band has had, like, ever since I reviewed Buzz Buzz, this band has had quite a few band lineup changes. Like one of their original members, Stuart Robinson, has recently left the band, and then of course like I remember I was actually on a podcast with this band a couple years back on an episode of The Circus Life, and the lineup at that time was Daniel, James, and at the time their guitar player was Nick Vandenberg from a band called The Tender Fruit. But eventually, and then eventually they did get like a fourth member in the band, which now I see that fourth member is Stacy Harden, who mostly plays guitar live, but on this album he plays upright bass a lot of the time, bright bass throughout the record. And then eventually Nick left the band, so now it's just like James, Daniel, and Stacy. So this album is basically them kind of trying to put the pieces back together, even if their lineup's kind of been a little on and off a little bit. But, it does make sense with the band's career. They've had numerous lineup changes, and of course they had to, cancel an entire tour and didn't even do music for a couple of years because Daniel Michaelak apparently had neural tension problems and whatnot. The result of trying to do that is this is definitely a very consistent and very beautiful and very kind of quiet, but still definitely very kind of witty and clever kind of record right here. It definitely is the closest the band has come to a straight up acoustic album. On their previous records, Hold On and Metrics of Affection, they've experimented with electronics and of course drum machines and doing some hip-hop kind of stuff, and even Daniel wrote a rap song on the Metrics of Affection album. This one, however, doesn't include any of that, even though there are a few occasional moments. There is the song Not Those Kind of People, which does include a little drum machine in the bridge, and there's occasional little kind of backdrops of synth here and there, but for the most part it's mostly guitar, acoustic guitar, piano, upright bass, percussion, and not much else. But they definitely do come through with, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill, acoustic renditions of already recorded songs kind of acoustic album. This is a record that actually is diverse and definitely interesting and has plenty of smart, clever songwriting sort of chops to kind of keep it interesting. So it opens with the song "What's So Great About You," which is a song that starts out with kind of a simple riff with some acoustic guitar as well as some really nice ukulele on there. And this is a song that right off the bat definitely does start us off with some pretty whip-smart, sort of clever lyrics, which sort of deals with this relationship where the narrator is basically saying, to this person, only you think you're special, and what's a person to do when there's no more room left on the pedestal, and also saying how only you have an ego, and what's a friend to do, and I never thought you'd stoop low, and definitely some very clever lyrics of how it kind of addresses this relationship that's kind of fallen apart instead of just self-indulgent sadness. And the harmonies sound really nice, and the band definitely does sound really kind of more lively than ever here, actually. So they do sound like pretty much happier than they've ever been, even if the topics they're addressing are not so upbeat. And then we have the lead single from this record is called Not Those Kind of People, and definitely a great one for a single. I love that catchy acoustic guitar riff that opens up the song. It kind of creates kind of the structure of the song, and it instantly becomes memorable and gets stuck in your head. And I also do really like how kind of off the wall and how like witty the lyrics are. Kind of some unexpected kind of lyrical curveballs, like curveballs like dark magic voodoo needle, all just for fun, as well as the final lyric in the third verse of curse the soup, curse the soup, break the ladle, starve at the yard. That's poeticism right there. Right there, and the chorus is definitely like hella catchy as well. And this is one song where you really do get to hear how well all their voices go together. Like you have Daniel, who's singing in kind of tenor. You have Daniel and Phillips, Daniel and James's really nice tenor voices. But then you have Stacey Harden doing more alto range with his voice, and really showing off his ability to do some really nice kind of higher backup vocals. There is one song on here that I was pretty familiar with actually ever since like 2015, and that's the song Binoculars. And I do remember, like, I know enough to remember. I know enough to remember that the working title for this song initially was "People Look Everywhere But Up," but eventually the name changed to Binoculars. And definitely another one on here that I do really like, and this is one song that has some of the most kind of moving vocal harmonies on the entire album. And sort of the Binoculars may not necessarily be literally binoculars. It could be more kind of a metaphor for sort of trying to look up in life, but not really seeing everything that you're really aiming to see, and kind of about how it kind of hurts if sometimes in life you kind of tend to miss on tend to hit or miss with relationships or whatever you may be dealing with. Then we have the song Math and Love, which very cleverly sort of likens love and relationships to kind of this never-ending sort of equation that we're sort of going through in life. And it took me a few listens for me to realize that this is what this lyric said, but apparently one of the lyrics says, symmetry is a true sum. Divide us, multiply us, images that sit beside us. 2 equals 1. So kind of in this equation of life, 2 equals 1. And I also do really like some of the clever curveballs, the line of some paths, some roads, they fork and split, but you and me share goodbye too. And it's half for you, half for me. For me is kind of the conflict of this tale. So they do write songs about relationships and do go in kind of a singer-songwriter type direction, but they do it with so much more kind of sort of wit and more of a sense of humor to it, and really do put a lot of insight into it, and instead of just trying to just sing a sad song with an acoustic guitar. And James Phillips does put on really beautiful lead vocal performance, and the bridge, which he seems to do for a majority of this album, so I can tell this is more a collaborative kind of album, which I think is cool. The song Perfect is by far the most kind of endearing song on the album musically, but, in a good way. The song sort of, and the song sort of talks about, it's sort of like this couple sort of deciding what to do with their house, and pretty much, and kind of experiencing conflicts because they don't agree on everything. Like, there's a line in the song that I actually think is quite funny of what would be the name of our first kid. I know you like Emma Jean, but I can't stand it. Yeah, I think that lyric's pretty clever right there. Clever right there. The song Fence, which technically you could say is the title track of the record, even though it just says Fence and not Fences, like the title of the record. And James Phillips fronts the lead vocal for good majority of the song. And this is kind of a song about kind of wondering where you stand, pretty much, and you're always thinking of those places you stood before, and kind of wondering, why is this situation so hard, so you kind of feel like this fence that's in someone's backyard, pretty much, kind of, that kind of tends to stay there a little bit, but still at the same time, you're kind of, constantly trying to kind of, make yourself get through that situation, pretty much. So the title Fences kind of makes sense as the title of the record, because, these songs are kind of about how, when you feel kind of like, when you just feel like a fence, you've got to you just kind of got to try to put the pieces back together and, kind of hope for the best in life and whatnot, even if you're going through some sort of a tough breakup or loss or something like that. It's something that I think a lot of people can really relate to, so that's why I think this record lyrically is just very smart and very insightful, just as you would expect from this band. And also, I do think the song Fences has a really unique and very beautiful melody structure going on. And I do think the kind of psychedelic tinged acoustic guitars that sound like they're being played through some sort of echo chamber or something like that does sound really cool in there. Following that, though, is one of my favorite tracks on the record, which is Good News Sadie, which is New Sadie. I think the harmonies on this song are great. I mean, the harmonies in the chorus are just heavenly. Really beautiful acoustic guitar melody that, by far, just sounds like the most kind of joyous sounding song on the entire album, even though it does reflect on, this guy has found this new girl that he's in love with, pretty much, and sort of letting his ex-girlfriend know that I have good news and I got bad news. And he's got a loose heart and stuff like that. But also kind of saying the one I tell first shouldn't make the others worse, and that's a story of me loving you. But also kind of saying how this new girl that he's found sometimes looks like her, and he doesn't necessarily want to call her baby because telling her that won't make it true. It's just a beautiful track on the record that definitely does tie this whole record together, I think. Then we have the song I Could Make You So Happy, which is kind of a song about sort of trying to, kind of make someone feel good even if they're down. They're down. It's sort of, the girl that this song is kind of directed at is sort of being told by a significant other that I would do anything to make you so happy, even if even if this relationship is pretty much over. And definitely some really nice poetic lyrics on the song. Even though this is probably my least favorite track on the album because while it is one of the longer songs on the record over the kind of shorter tracks, I do wish that it was maybe a tad bit longer. It just seems to kind of end abruptly at the end, if the I Could Make You So Happy refrain was maybe repeated, it maybe would have been just a little more satisfying, I think. Even though I do love the production on this song, including I really like the mandolins that sound like they're being sampled from a mellotron, which do sound really nice over the piano solo, as well as some kind of clickety-clack sort of percussion in the background. Definitely sounds really nice. Really nice, and I think the mellotron is also sampling a French horn at one point too, which I think is cool. After that, we have the song Long Life, which for a good amount of time, this was probably my least favorite track on the album, but over time, the song has just grown on me. Because I think it's just so beautiful and it definitely is one of the more cathartic moments on the album. I think the acoustic guitar melody is nice, the harmonies are gorgeous, and one of James Phillips' best songs that he's written out of just the few that he's done lately for the band, Forgive Me Darling, and the other song on here, Fence. Fence. This song definitely features just some real poetic lyrics that I think are definitely very just right off the bat very engaging and kind of stick with you, like the line of the years are slipping by me like fish in a silver stream. So he's sort of talking about how he doesn't want to worry so much about death and his life being over, but he doesn't. But he does have one simple plea: just a nice, long, full, satisfying life, because otherwise your life doesn't have too much worth to it. And really cool guitar solo in the middle, which it actually has a bit of a, it's kind of the tape is kind of the tape is kind of going backwards on the guitar solo, giving it this really cool sort of psychedelic effect, which I do really like, and it sounds as if it's being put through some sort of filter or something like that. But my favorite song on the record, bar none, would have to be the song Is This Danger, which Is This Danger? I mean, right off the bat, from the first few lines, I am just pulled right in. Pulled right in. And the harmonies are fantastic. This is another song where I do feel like you really get to hear how just beautifully their voices go together. And also do like the refrain of, I've been holding back, I've been holding back. And apparently, when I was on the podcast with these guys, they had recorded a few songs that were on, a few live versions of a couple of songs on the podcast, which was them a cappella. And I think this song may have been one of them, because the I've been holding back refrain actually sounded quite familiar and sounds really beautiful in here with the new lineup for sure. No, for sure. And the song has some lyrics where I can't really explain like just how beautiful they are. You just kind of have to listen to the song itself. And also really beautiful elements in here musically. Like that slide guitar solo in the middle is just awesome. And then it closes with the song No Snow in the Valley, which features this riff pretty similar to somebody like Elliott Smith a little bit in the way that it kind of, has kind of like do 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 do. It sounds like something Elliott Smith could have done, but in a good way, of course, because, me, I love Elliott Smith. And the lyrics even have a bit of an Elliott Smith tinge to it, just not as dark as Elliott usually tends to be. And of course, once again, some really nice kind of metaphors about trying to get through life, life, like the line of, that's the thing about a slippery slope. You can slide, but there's not always snow in the valley. And once again, great harmonies on this song. And I think the production sounds beautiful. I think the kind of sort of spooky piano, which has kind of what sounds as if it's got like a heavy sustain pedal sort of effect on it, definitely does sound really nice and atmospheric, and paints really well over for the finger-picked acoustic guitars. A really nice upright bass line. Line 2, and it also has a bit of and all the like orchestral percussion, like the timpani, sounds really nice on there. And the ending sounds pretty cool because it, sees them going a little kind of, going for actually a bit of like chill wave at the end, because I'm hearing a little tinge of synth in the background, and of course the piano sounded like it's being played through an echo chamber. It's beautiful. So yeah, definitely an album that I think is incredibly consistent from front to back. It's definitely kind of just like a simple and kind of unadorned, sort of unpretentious, but at the same time still definitely very compelling and unique, creative, and very witty kind of 11-song set right here. So 8 out of 10 definitely for this new Bombadil album, Fences. I know some of you watching this video have probably never heard of this band before, but I highly recommend you check out these guys because they got an incredible discography, not one bad album in their discography, to be completely honest. And definitely a band that if you're into sort of kind of soft indie folk singer-songwriter type of music, this is definitely for you. So that's my review for Bombadil's Fences, and I'll see you for episode 178.